Hi, it's Ingrid. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's time for another wrap-up. I haven't filmed some in a few months because I just didn't read enough to make a full wrap-up video, so I'm just doing a compiled one of September, October and November. I have 7 books in total to talk about right now, and I'll tell you what month I read them, what I thought of them, and my ratings. Let's get right into it. First I'm gonna open my notes because I have all of my ratings written down here. And we're gonna go in order of when I read them. Well, I think so at least. So the first book I have is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. If you've seen my channel before, you would know that she is one of my favorite authors. And this book, no different from the others, I absolutely loved it. I'm pretty sure this is my favorite book of hers. I loved the characters, both Jack and Elsie were very entertaining and interesting, and I really liked them. There's something about Ali Hazelwood's writing that just always connects with me in a way. I really like it. It's fast-paced and easy to read, and obviously she is an author that writes a lot of smut. But in this one I didn't feel like the smut took over in a way. It fit into the story and it was done perfectly. It wasn't too much, not too little, and it just really fit the character development and the relationship development, which I really liked. One thing that I don't like about romance books is the third act breakup or the third act conflict that always happens. I know going into a book that it's going to be there, but it still annoys me so much. But in this book, actually, it was done pretty well. It didn't last too long and they could resolve their issues pretty quickly and they listened to each other. Obviously there's always a bit of miscommunication, I feel like that's kind of her thing, but it didn't last for too long and it worked that way. So this is the first time that I haven't actually hated the third act conflict, because usually they're just so annoying and it's so easy to fix if you just stop and listen to each other. But in this one, she did really good in this one, and her characters. I absolutely loved Jack. He was so patient and so nice. Obviously there were some things going on in the beginning there, but he was always pushing Elsie to be her best self while also reminding her that she is perfect the way she is. He wouldn't change her for the world. And this storyline, very entertaining. I was scared a few times there. I was really worried for how that relationship would go when things were revealed. Because the way this conflict was, he didn't necessarily know what he had done wrong, but she didn't explain it either, so it was no one's fault. I like that Elsie had a reason to be upset, while also being willing to work on it. And the way that she figured things out and really did the right thing in the end made me so happy, because I was worried that she would go the other way. But I'm just glad that she understood the other side of the story and that they got to work through it. I think this is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. I'm so excited for everything else that she puts out. Check and Mate just came out, so I'm asking for it for Christmas, so hopefully I get it. If not, I will be buying it soon. But I need to save money, so I'm asking for it for Christmas. But I'm giving this 5 stars. I am obsessed, I love it, and Ali Hazelwood is a queen. Let's move on to the next. The next book I read was The Last Dragon King by Leah Stone. I actually DNF'd this one. I did not like it. When I read the back of it, I was very intrigued. I had never heard of this before buying it, and usually I will research books before buying them, but this one, I've never seen anyone on YouTube talk about it, and that's where I get most of my recommendations from. But I saw it in the store, read the back, and I was interested, so I bought it, and also I really loved the cover. But then I got into it, and it starts off with an illustration of a dragon, which I like. And then it has a map, which always makes a book better, so I was very excited. Then I started reading, and this book was not it. I think the storyline and the plot had a chance of being better as it developed. through the pages. But the writing, I could not get past the writing. Especially the dialogue. I don't know exactly what it was, but it just didn't feel like it was written by a professional. Like, this was like 4th grade level writing. And I just couldn't get through it, so I had to DNF it. I was at 38 pages, chapter 3. Yeah. So I read this much, and then I gave up. I couldn't put myself through that. It wasn't worth it. So I'm a little upset because I was excited for this book. And like, this is one of the shorter fantasies that I own, which I was so excited for. And the book is so pretty, so I was excited to display it on my shelf, but like, that won't happen. So I didn't like the book, so DNF'd it. Unfortunately, do not recommend. The next book I read was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This book, like, I knew something about it before I read it, because I've watched the show, Poirot. Like, I struggle to pronounce those kinds of things in English, but I think Poirot is right. So like, I was familiar with the characters and like the plot in a way. Like, obviously each book is different. But this one, should I be giving you like storylines and plot details about these books? Because I haven't been doing that. But anyways, Poirot is a detective, a private detective. So basically the plotline of this story is Hastings is kind of the character we follow. The book is written from his POV, I think. And he's visiting this house, staying there, and then there's a murder. So he's like, can I get my friend Poirot? He's a private detective. And then he comes to try to solve the murder. So him and Hastings kind of work together. Poirot does most of the work, but Hastings is there. And I really liked both the characters. I think Poirot is a very interesting character. And I absolutely loved Hastings. I think Hastings is my favorite, even though he's a bit dumb sometimes. Like, when you're telling Poirot, like, I think this is right. And he's like, is it dumb? And you're like, yeah. You're just not thinking about it. But like, obviously, he knows better. Something I really liked about this is that we go through the story like through Hastings' eyes. I was expecting to follow Poirot, but we're not. So like, we're kind of learning how things are happening at the same time as Hastings, like through his conversations with Poirot and their actions together. So when Poirot, I'm saying his name way too much, but when Poirot tells Hastings something, that's how we learn it. And that was just so refreshing in a way, because I feel like a lot of books isn't like that. I also really like that he like keeps us updated on what he finds out without revealing too much, so there's always like a surprise. He holds back a bit while trying to give Hastings some hints so that he can figure it out himself. He's not like the type of person who will like boast about being right. Like, he wants Hastings to figure it out. And like, the character dynamic between those two people just made me so happy. So I'm so excited to continue this series. I actually bought the next 2 books so that I can continue, so they will be read very soon. The writing of this book was very easy. Usually thrillers are kind of hard for me, so I tried to avoid them. But I do want to like branch out a bit and read more, so I did try this one, and the writing was a lot easier than other thrillers I've read or looked at, which I liked. It was fast-paced and you got a lot of things happening in every chapter, which is good, always good to like experience some things. And also I loved how Poirot values Hastings' opinions. Like, I've already mentioned that, like, he didn't do it alone, he wanted him to help, he wanted him to be a part of it, and that just made me so happy. So I think I gave this 4.25? Yeah. 4.25 stars. I just had to check my notes. Another thing. I don't know if I can find it. Is it in the beginning? It's not in the beginning. Where is it? There we go. There's a map. You know how I feel about maps. This isn't even a fantasy. It's just a map of the house. But I love maps. And it's so refreshing to have something like that in there. And it's so cool. And yeah, I love Agatha Christie. I love crime stories. I grew up watching crime shows, so I'm very excited to read about them finally. So I will be reading the rest of this series. And there's a lot of books. Like, you can't really see it that well, but like there's a list of all of the books. So I will be reading that very soon. Now, probably the most popular book that I have read recently, but I'm very late to, but that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I did read this, I did vlog it. The video isn't out yet, but I will post it eventually. I tabbed it quite a lot. I don't know if you can see that, like there's a lot of them. I was very interested from the beginning. I actually liked to see Feyre's normal life. I really enjoyed that. And then obviously when she got into the fairy kingdom, whatever I should call it, it was still interesting. And I liked how she interacted with the characters. I really loved Tamlin, and I especially loved Lucien. He's my favorite. He's my absolute favorite character. I'm so excited. I hope we see more of him. I'm not so sure about it, but I hope we do. I really liked that Feyre was her own person throughout the whole story. She didn't change for anyone but herself. Like, she kept her personality, she kept her like fighting will, whatever. I don't know how to explain it. Again, Lucien. I love this sibling relationship that we got between Feyre and Lucien, and how he didn't always listen to Tamlin. Like, he would build something on with Feyre, which I really liked. The book was very fast-paced and it was easy to read. Like, I feel like fantasies can often be heavy, but this one was actually pretty fine, which is good. And the characters, like I said, I loved Tamlin and I loved Lucien. I know that I'm not supposed to love Tamlin, I've heard it before, just don't say it. But Feyre, I was worried that I wouldn't like her as much, but I actually really did. Like, I can't think of another fantasy female character. Obviously Inês, love Inês. But Feyre, she was so different in a way while also being the same. That didn't make any sense. But she had a personality of her own. She wasn't just there to fall in love, which is something that I really enjoyed. One thing I have to say, when we got to like the mountains, it was a little too much for me. Like, it took a little bit too long, it was a bit slow. Didn't like it as much after that. Like, up until Feyre's trials, I was thinking this was a definite 5-star, but after that I have gone down a bit on my rating, and I think I landed on a 4.5. I have another controversial opinion here. I absolutely despise Rhysand. I know that's probably going to change, but in this book, he's insufferable. Like, leave her alone, leave everyone alone, just go away. Absolutely annoying, and it's so frustrating every time he was there. I will say, I have started A Court of Mist and Fury. Did my feelings towards him change? Possibly. We're talking about this book now, and he was not good, and he was just so annoying and so mean for no reason. Like, he pretended to have reasons to do things and to help out, but like, did you really have to do it like that? Because I would say the answer is no. You're just mean. But clearly, I wouldn't have tabbed it so much if I didn't like it. So 4.5 is a very good rating. And I'm going to continue the series. Don't know if I will be finishing the whole series this year. Probably not. But I'm glad I read it. And I'm excited to read more of her work. Next up, we have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I've heard Sarah Crowley talk about this quite a lot, so I decided to try it out for myself. I tabbed this one as well, not as much, but like there's a few different ones, some yellow, some green. Tabbed a few different things. For this one, I was intrigued by the first page. Like, it always kept me on my toes, and there was always something happening, which I really enjoyed. So like, it was very hard for me to put it down, and I kept going through it very quickly, which sometimes reading takes a lot of time for me. But this one, very easy to read, it was fast-paced, and I've mentioned it before, thrillers usually scares me because of the writing. Like, I've picked up thrillers in the store and just looked at them and like, no, this writing, not for me, I can't do it because it's so heavy. It's so hard to read, like, it takes a lot of brain power, and it tires me out. But this one wasn't written like that at all. It was so fast-paced and easy, and it was just so... I just couldn't stop. I had to get through it, which I loved. I really liked the dual POV and the letters. That was very refreshing to like change it up a bit. I would say that I was very confused, because I thought I had it, and then we got to the ending and I was very confused. Like, I have a video up of me reading this, and my reactions to this book is like my favorite thing I've ever filmed. So I really love that video. It's me reading thrillers for a week. But like, there were so many twists and they just kept coming, and then I thought I understood the story, but then something happened and I was like, what is going on? And I had to go like back in the book. In that video you can see me going back to the beginning, like trying to figure out, did I miss something? But no, it's just a thriller. And it was so good. Like, this is the best thriller I've read for sure. And it's also one of my favorite books of all time. So I'm hoping that the rest of her books are the same, because I really want to check those out. I gave this 5 stars, if you couldn't tell. Like, I really enjoyed this. The twists, they were just so interesting, and there was always something different. And I really liked that I could like guess. And I figured out some things without revealing the whole story. So I was still surprised. And I was shocked at the end there. Like, maybe it was obvious to others, but not to me. So I had a really good time reading this. And I'm excited to read more thrillers if they're gonna be like this. My throat is starting to hurt, and that's really annoying because I'm not done yet. But the next book I read was Loveless by Alice Oseman. Honestly, this one was a bit disappointing. Like, I've loved everything she puts out, but this one, it was kind of boring. Like, I didn't connect to the characters or the plot. Like, usually the other books that she has written, obviously I don't relate to all of the experiences, but I could still connect to the characters in some way. But with this one, I found all of the characters annoying, to be honest. One thing I do like though is that it is very realistic. All of Alice Oseman's books are very realistic, and I do like that. And I think that's what kept me pushing through it. It's just, I knew kind of what I was getting into, but I also didn't. But also Alice Oseman, all of her books are like comfort reads to me. It's so comforting. I cried a lot though. This book made me sad. Like, there was a lot of tears. And I feel like I don't cry that often. But this one, I could not stop. It was so many thoughts going on in my head while reading this. And there are certain aspects to her books that I do relate to. And that's a good feeling and a bad feeling sometimes. But I keep a note thing when I read books to write down thoughts as I was going. And the first things I wrote were least favorite of her books. It took way too long to get into, over halfway through, and nothing has really happened. So I didn't like it in the beginning. When I got 70% through, I really started enjoying this. The plot and story like went up, and this was more interesting. So I did like it, and I would still recommend it. Like, I am very confused on how to rate it, because it took some time to get into, but I did really love the ending, and I love the comforting, realistic aspect of these books. But I think I'm landing on a 3.5, because it's not my favorite, but I would still recommend it, and I'm glad I read it. So I think that's what we're landing on, 3.5. It's good. It's not bad, but it's not amazing, so we're just gonna stick to that. Now, the last book that I'm going to be talking about, also a disappointment. The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I was so excited for this. When I read the back of this in the bookstore, I was so excited, and I've been wanting to read it for so long. And then I started reading it, and it's so boring. I didn't really understand it. Someone's gonna yell. Someone just came home. I don't want that. Like, one of my first thoughts was that there were so many characters and I couldn't keep track of them. Like, whose story is this? Who am I following? And I didn't understand it. And didn't really like any of the characters either. My father is home. But anyways, I think this story would have been better if we were just following like one or two people at least in the beginning and then get introduced to the rest, because I couldn't keep up. I wrote down in my notes, I don't understand who they are or why they're important to the story. I'm 110 pages in and I still don't have a clue. And it's not confusing and the thrillers are messing with my head away, it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of boring, because it was so disappointing. Like, all of the things that were written on this happened in the book, and it didn't really mean anything, like nothing happened with it. One of the things they were like, just write a report, it's not that important. And the next one, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, I didn't understand. Camera turned off. I didn't understand who we were following, because sometimes they were talking in this person's perspective, and then we were in this other person's perspective, and then they started talking about we, and like, who is we? I don't get it. I still don't understand what this book is. I think the fact that people say that this is thrilling, I read like reviews of people saying it was so thrilling, but like there was nothing thrilling about it. Like, this shouldn't be a thriller. I don't get it. Whatever. It's just, I think if I was going into this thinking of it as a fictional documentary in a way, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But like, I was expecting a thriller, because that's how people have been describing it to me. But I didn't understand the thrilling aspect of this. But anyways, that's all of the books I've read in September, October and November. I started A Court of Mist and Fury, but I barely got into that, so I'm going to talk about that in my December wrap-up. And then I started Priest and Magnolia Parks months ago, and I picked it back up this month, so again, you will be hearing more about that in my December wrap-up. But that was it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace out, lovers.